This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight, lesson learned. Halifax Water says it can explain a delay in issuing an emergency alert about its boil water advisory. Check your phone. Nova Scotians who are 16 and older can now access some of their medical files through an app. And in the limelight, Atlantic Canada's first solar-powered car heads to the Formula Sun Grand Prix in Kentucky.
Increasing clouds tonight and in through Thursday, but overall a solid day shaping up across the province. Your full weather forecast is coming up.
Good evening. The boil water advisory in the Halifax area announced on Monday has finally been lifted. Halifax Water is still investigating what caused the problem, but tonight they're explaining why they responded the way they did. Josh Hoffman has more.
This week's boil water advisory for most of Halifax Regional Municipality raised several questions. An internal electrical issue at a water treatment facility allowed some unchlorinated water to enter the municipal system for about 30 minutes on Monday. We're going to have to wait a bit before we learn how this happened, as Halifax Water says it's investigating the incident and expects to give a full report to the province's Utility and Review Board. But Halifax Water did tell us they identified the issue at roughly 1:20 on Monday afternoon. So why did it take until 6 p.m. before they issued a press release? Communications manager Jeff Myrick says it's because they were trying to fix the problem before it spread beyond the facility.
You have to understand how the treatment process works. So that section of water was still within the confines of the treatment process. We were trying to figure out how to get it out of the system and hopefully flush it out before it started to go into what is a 5-kilometer force main before it even hits any of the distribution network.
Something else that wasn't clear was why the press release was sent out at 6 p.m., but residents didn't receive an emergency alert on their phone until almost 9. Myrick admits that's their fault.
About an hour and a half later, when we found out, I made aware that the Nova Scotia provincial alert system was also available to us, and so we actually shared the information on that process as well, which is separate, but we didn't know about it, so that was on us in terms of the delay.
Myrick says there are several lessons to be learned from this week's incident. Both the province's Emergency Management Office and Halifax Regional Municipality declined to be interviewed for the story. Josh Hoffman, CBC News, Halifax.
And just a quick clarification from last night's program. We made reference to the issue at the water treatment facility being due to a power outage. As you heard from Josh there, to be clear, it was an internal electrical failure at the facility. Well, Nova Scotians over 16 years old can now access some of their medical files on their phone. It can be done by using the province's Your Health NS app. The province test drove the app earlier this year and are happy enough with it that they're now making it available to everyone. But as Jean Laroche reports, that's based on a tiny survey sample and limited information about who actually made use of it.
We're going to test live and see what works and what doesn't, so bear with me.
The show and tell got off to a rocky start, but the province says Nova Scotians will find the app easy to use and useful.
If I go into X-ray as an example, you can see the next available slot shows up there.
Appointments, past clinic or hospital visits, and reports from routine lab tests. It's all just a click away. Nearly 14,000 people got to test drive the app, but only 173 of those filled out evaluations. The province also did not track how many people in the test group actually used it. They're still calling the pilot a big success.
We know from our evaluation here, but also from other jurisdictions around the world, this empowers patients. This allows patients to manage their own health. And the impact on providers is also profound.
I can't imagine that it would be of no benefit to anybody. I think it's a wonderful day for Nova Scotian to be able to access this information in the palm of their hand.
But this opposition MLA is underwhelmed.
Ultimately, what we need to be able to do is access people who can tell us what's wrong with us. And that's what so many people are missing.
These patient volunteers who provided input on the app are excited it has fully launched.
A lot of us have family members in other provinces, and in other provinces people have access to this kind of information. So we're lagging, and it's about time.
I mean, for self-management, trying to take care of yourself and not relying on the healthcare system, I think it's just astounding to be able to have this information at your fingertips.
To date, the province has spent $15 million on this app. The hope is it will give Nova Scotians the information they need to better manage their care and more easily access care when they need it. Jean Laroche, CBC News, Halifax.
The Provincial Health Authority has updated its critical care assessment forms to be more inclusive. The change followed a call from several nurses who noticed the forms did not account for a diverse patient population. As Michael Gorman reports, healthcare providers say the new forms have benefits for patients and providers.
Working in the ICU at the Aberdeen Hospital, registered nurses Yolanda Baker and Robin Fraser had to fill out plenty of forms each day. It was the portion of a form that measured change in skin color that caused concern for both of them.
We had a lot of people in the unit that were of different ethnicities, and the forms didn't seem to reflect that, and it just always said pink, warm, dry, and I found myself scratching it out on occasion, and then I noticed scratching it out more often and just saying normal for ethnicity.
Changes in a patient's skin color can be an early warning sign of more serious health concerns. Not being able to record those changes accurately can affect patient care. Fraser and Baker each brought their observations to health authority officials. A working group was struck, and now all critical care assessment forms have been updated to be more inclusive. This family doctor in Cole Harbour says there's a history of medicine not including all types of patients. She says making the system more inclusive helps patients and providers.
So to the healthcare provider, you're thinking this patient might not present typically because it's been flagged up on this form, gets you to look again. To the patient, it signals to them that this person might be aware of me, might understand that I'm different, might be able to look after me appropriately. So everyone in that room is getting the right care and the right assessment and hopefully the right results that we need.
For Fraser, there's also the consideration of who might be filling out the forms.
We now have many nurses working in our hospital and provincially from other countries. So by doing this, it also allows them to see themselves represented on these documents.
Baker and Fraser say they're pleased that their feedback was accepted and acted upon. They're both hoping it leads to other changes to make the system more inclusive. Michael Gorman, CBC News, New Glasgow.
Hurricane Beryl is bearing down on Jamaica as it continues its charge across the Caribbean. And here in Nova Scotia, people with family ties down south are worrying from afar. Preparations continue as people board up buildings and sandbag properties. Jamaica has closed all 3 of its international airports and imposed a curfew. The Category 4 storm has sustained winds topping 200 kilometers an hour, and it's being blamed for at least 6 deaths and extensive damage in the southeastern Caribbean. Christine Allen runs a restaurant in Halifax, but she's concerned about her family back in Jamaica.
That they are not prepared as they should be. But I've talked with them and they said that they have done all that they need to do, in terms of battening down, ensuring the roofing is as secure as they can. Trees are not in the way of toppling down on the house and that sort of thing.
My conversation with Christine Allen about watching and worrying about Beryl all the way from Halifax is coming up. That's our Newsmaker interview just after 6:30. And speaking of the weather on this glorious day here in Halifax, Ryan Snoddon joining us now from the CBC Weather Center.
Hey, Tom. Yeah, what a day indeed. Temperatures high 20s and flirting with that 30 mark in a few backyards. No doubt about that today. Officially didn't reach that mark, but 29 Greenwood, 27 in Kentville, 28 in Truro, 26 Antigonish down towards Sheet Harbor. It was just a terrific day. So much sunshine. A little bit of high cloud cover starting to fan its way in along this warm frontal boundary, which is lifting off just to our north, and that will be basically remaining off to the north, though we will be seeing some clouds building in for tomorrow and some shower chances, which will edge in as we work our way towards the Friday time period, as we'll show you. Here's how things are playing out for tomorrow. Note the stronger southerly flow tomorrow. Today was like a day with sea breezes everywhere, so it was a bit cool if your feet were in the water anywhere. Tomorrow, that sea breeze is going to be more pronounced along that Atlantic coastline. So if you're beach bound here, just be mindful that it will be feeling a bit cooler here, whereas the North Shore will be an offshore flow, and it'll be quite lovely there along the Northumberland shore, and lovely everywhere, of course, with those types of temperatures. But yeah, we will see a little more cloud in the mix tomorrow than what we've had the last couple of days, particularly in through the midday time period. A mix of sun and cloud, though, throughout the day. And then those shower chances will edge in for Thursday night. Friday, it looks like the shower chances maybe along the southwest Atlantic coastline. But overall, Friday's another fine day. Saturday looks like we'll really see that humidity increasing, and so that sticky feel is going to be on the rise. Shower chances increasing through Saturday, but it looks like, Tom, we're going to hold off until Saturday night and Sunday, but we'll drill into that in more detail with your 7-day forecast coming up.
We'll want to know more about that for sure. Okay, Ryan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Andy Fillmore has joined the race to become the next mayor of Halifax. He has been the city's MP for the past 9 years. Fillmore's background is in urban planning, and he worked for the Halifax municipality before going into politics. If elected, he promises to freeze the municipal tax rate for 2 years.
The biggest issue facing Halifax right now and the municipality is housing affordability. So this is the work that I want to focus primarily on. My first act as mayor will be to call Premier Houston and tell him that he's got a partner in me and in the city to address the housing crisis head on. That part of addressing that is controlling affordability, and that's why I am planning to have a 2-year municipal tax rate freeze while we understand how to better deliver good value for money on taxpayers' dollars.
Fillmore has also talked about improving transit, filling potholes, and building more homes. Fillmore is the third high-profile candidate to join the race alongside current councillors Pam Lovelace and Wei Mason. Well, start your engines, or rather your controllers. A friendly competition in Cheticamp last week had students racing radio-controlled boats across the harbour. Aaron Potty was there to capture it all.
A gathering along the wharf in Cheticamp is not an uncommon sight, but instead of fishing boats, they were there for a special race. Small handmade vessels zipping across the harbour.
The waves seem very harsh, and I have found some sea life under there, so I'm kind of scared.
This was the first ever De Merton Bot Challenge, meaning ready your boat in Acadian French. It brought together students from grades 5 to 8 from 4 different French schools around the province. For the past few months, teams have been working on their vessels.
I think that our boat is going to do fairly well, and that we might win a prize or two.
They say the design was something they all took seriously.
We were watching YouTube videos on this stuff, then we finally came up with one, and that was our final choice. And a boat back there is what we like, and I'm confident that we're probably going to win with it.
It's got a lot of mechanisms. It's got a little antenna inside of this, so it can go from like distance to distance really easily with no bugs or anything.
Students attempted to pilot the boats 560 meters away to Cheticamp Island. Once on the island, a teammate was expected to load it with a chest full of candy. But choppy waters during the race meant none of the boats could make it ashore. One broke its rudder at the start of the race and another lost its radio. But the event's organizer says it was still a success.
It was absolutely awesome. We finally have the sun is out. We have the barbecue with La Caisse Populaire. It's a great turnover, and we have lots of fun.
The event was created by Stéphane Saunier of École NDA in Cheticamp.
I really wanted to do something around boating and water activities and stuff like that. And many communities where we have Acadian school are also fishing communities. So many kids want to be fishermen in the future. And I wanted to do something for the kids who are not that much into sports or art. There was something lacking for like the little nerd like me. And I wanted to have like a tech competition, inter-school.
The school team from Camp was awarded a prize for fastest boat for going the furthest in the race. Saunier says he's already thinking up plans for another competition next year, hopefully with less wind and more competitors. Erin Potty, CBC News, Camp.
And in another race, Atlantic Canada's first solar-powered electric vehicle is making its way to Kentucky next month. The Dalhousie Solar Car Team will be racing for the second time in the Formula Sun Grand Prix. The CBC's Molly McNaughton went to the shop to see how the team is preparing.
Slide it forward a bit. Okay, just hold it there.
These student volunteers are hard at work. They're making repairs and upgrades to a 5-foot-long vehicle powered by the sun.
This is our solar car. You can see we have the solar array on top of it right now. And underneath that, there's a chassis which has a battery, or which holds a battery and motor controller. So the solar array constantly charges the battery as we drive, and then we use the battery to propel the car forward.
Weighing in at 600 pounds, Dalhousie's car can reach a speed of up to 65 kilometers an hour. But the winner at Formula Sun is awarded based on the number of laps over the span of 3 days. Bugden says last year they drove 135 laps, which works out to about 540 kilometers.
The main thing is getting to see the car in action. We spend so much time here in the shop working on it. It's rewarding to see the car move, and especially if you get the chance to drive it.
But working on a car like this comes with some speed bumps.
One of our big goals was to redesign the array and its shell, but that didn't end up happening for various reasons. I don't think we got the parts in time.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so that's really common when in any sort of project, you get roadblocks, things don't always go according to plan.
So the roll bar is probably our biggest challenge this year because the one we raced with last year no longer meets the race requirements, so we had to design it from scratch.
Finding funding is another challenge, and so is balancing their time in the shop with time in the classroom.
A lot of it is just time management and being dedicated to the team and making sure you're showing up for that, but then also focusing on your studies as well.
But nothing is stopping the team from showcasing the possibilities of renewable energy at the race. Arsenault says their goal is to inspire big industry leaders to commit to lowering their greenhouse gas emissions.
If students can make something as efficient and green as this, they can do it as well. Like, we're students, we're doing our own funding for this. They have the funding to do it as well, and they have the expertise.
The race will take place at the National Corvette Museum Motorsports Park in Bowling Green, Kentucky, where 34 teams from all over North America will compete. Molly McNaughton, CBC News, Halifax.
Impressive. Well, the Caledonian Orchestra of Nova Scotia began 30 years ago with the aim of bringing the traditional sounds of old Scotland to the communities around the province. Today, it has many new members and a few who have been there almost since the beginning. One of them is 90-year-old Nelson Ferguson, the orchestra's conductor and musical arranger. Alex Guy paid him a visit.
To see the audience so happy and enjoy the music, and to see our puppet make the children smile, I think that's one of the biggest joys.
And when we get together, when we come in this room to practice, you can just feel our excitement. We're bubbling, we're with energy and positivity to see each other and to make the music together.
I always used to say it, I could never understand why some of the rock groups needed to take drugs to get a high. Give me a good audience with a lot of applause at the end, and I'm as high as a kite.
So I've been music director for what, 20 years or more? I don't know, it's a long time. I want to promote Scottish Celtic music and in a variety. I do not know any other group in Canada, in fact, you can go online, that's doing what we are doing. I was born in Edinburgh. Those days it was a small sort of theatre, the same sort of theatre we have here in our towns. I had that Scottish variety show and it changed every 2 weeks. And my grandparents took me to that show, and that's what we've been working towards, and I think we're sort of getting there. Phew. I'm tired now. Well, this one's called Ashton Ganella of Shreveport, Louisiana. And it's going to sound something like this.
One of the things I like about him the most is the fact that he's so committed to what he's doing. He's 90 years old. He turned 90 in February, kind of, as he says, he feels like he's 68. He's funny. It's a good time playing in the orchestra. It's not too serious, and I like that when because in other groups I've been in, sometimes it can get too tight. I like the fun aspect of the orchestra, and I think Nelson has a lot to do with that.
What year was it when you first met Nelson?
Well, as far as we can remember, it was about 1957. What I've always known with Nelson, whenever he asked me to do something, I knew it was always going to be a lot of hard work, but it was really going to be fun. And that's what we have here as well. It really is fun. And it keeps us young. I swear that after a 3-hour practice, my brain is sharper than it was when I started.
As you could probably tell from today's rehearsal, that we don't stick to jigs and reels and stuff. We go to slow airs and waltzes, and I want, that's one thing I want to do. So the Caledonian Orchestra is the main feature in the Caledonian show, of course. And I think it's cutting its own swath here. I think it's doing that. And I must say that you've maybe had a chance to talk to some of them. They are dedicated. They really are. Because to sit down there and listen to me for 2 hours of 3 hours in rehearsal, I give them credit. And they love it. They love it.
Let me lift him up. So we have John Angus, and actually we've had this marionette probably, I'd say at least 30 years we've had this in our repertoire. We have over 200 marionettes, maybe 300 in our studio. And he retired from a show, and he just hangs around and he plays on special request. And when I joined the Caledonia Orchestra, I thought, well, maybe he would fit into the show. I mean, I'm there anyway, I might as well bring him along. And I talked to Nelson about having this marionette, and Nelson just looked at me with this quizzical look like, okay? I don't think he had really two clues what I was talking about at first. He fits right in with our Scottish theme.
1, 2, 3. For me to do an arrangement for the orchestra, starting from scratch, I would say at the least a 40-hour week takes one arrangement, if I'm lucky. I left out the most important thing, which I say to the orchestra all the time. My philosophy is, our job is, to please our audiences and have a heck of a lot of fun in the process. And I mean that sincerely.
Coming up, leadership concerns. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau faces the media for the first time since the by-election last week. And people across the United Kingdom go to the polls tomorrow to vote in a pivotal national election. Beauty shot now from Lake Charles in Dartmouth. Ryan's up next with your full weather forecast. We'll see you back here after the break. Well, we saw that shot of the paddleboard as we went to commercial there. What a great day this would be. We wouldn't know, Ryan, because we were indoors for pretty much all of it. But what a great day this would be to be near the water in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, perfect summer day. A++, as we would say. Light sea breezes kind of across the board as well. So there was no coastline that was real cooler than another. Tomorrow's going to be a bit different, as we said earlier. That southerly flow increasing. And so a place like Lunenburg, which had a sea breeze today, will feel it a little bit more tomorrow. How about this?
They're not minding tonight in Lunenburg, are they?
Yeah, definitely not. A beautiful, beautiful evening. Lunenburg sitting around 18 degrees right now. Mainly sunny skies, though. You can see that wispy high cloud cover starting to wisp its way into the province, and we're going to be watching that to increase through tonight into tomorrow with some building cloud cover. Temperatures, you can see, pretty lovely at this hour. Yeah, still 18 in Lunenburg and 24 Halifax. Downtown, the airport's at 23, still hanging on to the high 20s up through Colchester, Cumberland, and into the Valley region. Note the dew point, it is still nice and comfy, which is great. And we'll soak this up as long as we can because, yeah, the muggy meter, as I'm going to show you in a few minutes, it is climbing upward toward the weekend. And that's where we're going to not only increase the humidity, the mugginess, but also increase our shower chances as we get more moisture in the air. So there is that wispy cloud that is starting to work its way into the region, backing things out. That's in association with this low, which is actually over Hudson Bay. It's a pretty large system stretching all the way down to the U.S. South with some showers, and that is going to continue to work its way eastward over the next few days. Cooler air in its wake, just 15 in Calgary today, 19 in Edmonton, Vancouver, is just at 20 degrees. Edging up into the high 20s, low 30s in through the Great Lakes. We're going to continue to see temps on the warm side right through our 7-day forecast, as you will see in a moment. Winds light tonight, temperatures ranging between 10 and 13, 14 degrees. Pretty similar start to what we've been seeing the last couple of mornings. Note for the cloud cover, it is certainly going to be in the mix overnight tonight and throughout the day tomorrow. We'll see times when it's a little bit on the stubborn side, but a solid mix of sun and cloud throughout the day. But be mindful that there will be times that it will cloud up a little bit, particularly in through tomorrow evening is when things do look set to cloud up. Now, as we look at the forecast for tomorrow across Cape Breton, it's a southeast wind. So Sydney, Richmond County, temps here, and also Victoria County. That's an onshore wind. So temperatures here, high teens, low 20s. Work your way inland towards the Bredor Lakes and then down through into Inverness. This is going to be our better chance of climbing up towards the mid 20s. Then the heat will really be on across the mainland with this southerly flow will really turn warm across the North Shore tomorrow, much like today, 28 in Truro, 27, 28 degrees in through northern parts of Hants County towards Cobequid Bay, through the valley, Kedzie around 28. And again, that southerly flow will keep coastal temperatures cooler along the South Shore. Now for Friday, we're looking at shift back to a southwest wind. So cooler Atlantic coast again in those onshore winds. Looking at that Northumberland Shore Valley, those are going to be our hot spots, high 20s. And for Friday, we will be increasing the humidity. So it'll be feeling into the 30s, especially for those folks there that do edge up into the high 20s temperature-wise. Shower chances for Thursday night in through Friday morning, but that does look set to stay mainly to our south on Friday. The cloud cover, I think, a little more dominant towards the southern parts of the province on Friday, more sun in the north. And then for Saturday, a mainly cloudy day, but some sun breaks, but it looks like we're going to stay dry. But be mindful if you're traveling this weekend, it does look like it's going to be turning wet on Saturday for New Brunswick, and keeping an eye on PEI, Cavendish Music Festival this weekend. Big forecast there. Looks like maybe some showers creeping in there on Saturday, and certainly a risk on Sunday. And note that muggy meter for here across Nova Scotia, creeping up Friday into the noticeable range, especially Saturday and into Sunday and Monday. And so that is one thing to keep in mind, that that humidity will be increasing through the next 3-4 days, and then next week, looking pretty summery, Tom.
Liking the look of that. Okay, thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you.
The weather update is brought to you by Tourism Gaspésie. Plan your stay in Gaspésie at tourismgaspésie.com and enjoy extraordinary moments.
Up next, I'll talk with a Jamaican-born woman living in Halifax who worries for her family back home in the path of Hurricane Beryl. That's our Newsmaker interview. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Nova Scotia News. Preparations continue as people board up buildings in Jamaica. Hurricane Beryl is a Category 4 storm with sustained winds topping 200 kilometers an hour, and it's being blamed for at least 6 deaths and extensive damage in the southeastern Caribbean. Hard to imagine that on a day like this you'd be concerned about the weather. Downtown Halifax is just a beautiful day, but Christine Allen is certainly concerned about the weather as it pertains to Jamaica. She's originally from Kingston, Jamaica.
Yes.
Now the owner-operator of the Brata Jamaican Jerk joint here in downtown Halifax. I know your mind is busy on your work here, but it's also other places. Tell me about what your connection is to Kingston, who you've been talking to there recently.
Well, I have been in touch with my cousins. Most of my immediate family are away, actually living abroad. But my cousins are still there, and they have prepared for the most part. Still concerning because you've been through so many hurricanes and storms. You have an idea what to expect, although it's always not what you expect. But they are prepared. Most people, she said, are taking it seriously. Jamaicans, we tend to make light of everything. But it seems like, you know, the government is taking it seriously, have put in certain precautions in place, and people are doing what they need to do to prepare.
What's it like for you as you watch some of those images coming out of the Caribbean in the last 24 hours or so?
Oh my goodness, it's devastating, and I've come to understand that 7 persons have died. I did social work in Jamaica, so I'm aware of some of the living conditions of people who are, you know, on the outskirts of the formal living structures. So you worry for people who don't have the proper housing infrastructure, right? Who are living next to gullies and waterways that can be easily displaced, flooded out. So it's concerning.
And a lot of the housing, as you suggest, is not all that stable. Some of it's tin walls, tin roofs, that kind of thing, particularly vulnerable to a storm like this.
Exactly. And my first major hurricane was Gilbert. That was 1988. And that was devastating for Jamaica. And when you've gone through something like that and other major hurricanes following, you know, when you survive it, you build up some amount of resilience, but you still worry for persons who don't have the same, you know, opportunities as you do.
Well, what are you worried about in particular? I know Kingston is you know, sort of right on the track of this thing, or pretty close to it. In terms of your family, what's your biggest concern?
In terms of my family, it is mainly that they are not prepared as they should be. But I've talked with them, and they said that they have done all that they need to do, you know, in terms of battening down, ensuring the roofing is as secure as they can. Trees are not in the way of toppling down on the house and that sort of thing. Ensuring that they have enough water and, you know, food to make it through a couple of days if needed. But so for them, I am somewhat comforted. But for other persons who may not be, you know, as I said, I've seen some pretty not so nice living conditions, and you worry about people who are having that to go through.
You're here, they're there. There's only so much you can do from here, isn't there?
You can only pray and worry.
What has this day been like for you? Have you been able to keep your mind busy?
I have been able to keep busy. Today we had a catering order, so it was just rush. And of course, you've come in after the lunch hour. So that kept me, you know, going a little bit. But I was able to talk with my cousin just now, and they said it's just drizzling right now, and they're getting different reports of the time for landing. So they're just watching, waiting, and seeing what's happening.
Well, we hope things turn out well for your family and for Jamaica and anyone else in the path of Beryl. Really appreciate you talking to us about this.
I appreciate you coming in and checking. We appreciate all the support that we get, you know, all the good intentions and vibes. Thank you.
Coming up, screen time tantrums. New research done in Nova Scotia suggests relying on digital devices to calm kids could impact emotional development. Welcome back. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau faced reporters today for the first time since the Liberals lost a by-election last week. Questions about his leadership dominated the event. As Ashley Burke reports, divisions in the caucus about Trudeau's future persist.
What's your name? The Prime Minister back in his own riding, showing his constituents and cameras he's not going anywhere, despite calls to step down.
Last week's by-election loss, not to sugarcoat it, was challenging. Was something we need to take seriously.
That stunning by-election loss cost the Liberals a longtime seat in Toronto St. Paul's, caused division in caucus, and led Liberal MP Wayne Long to call for Trudeau to go. Privately, another Liberal MP told CBC News there are a number of MPs now considering if they'll run again if Trudeau stays on.
Are you willing to stay on and lose members of your caucus?
I think the conversations that I'm having with MPs directly right across the country, the conversations that we're all having as Liberals are going to continue.
But that source said every member of caucus deserves a call, not just a select few. as ministers continue to defend Trudeau publicly.
I think he is the right leader for us. He's won 3 elections. We formed government 3 times.
Others were asked if they'd run for leader if Trudeau steps down.
I have been very clear over the last few days that Justin Trudeau is the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. I support it, obviously.
Winnipeg North MP Kevin Lamoureux says he's not pressing panic and will only run again in the next election if Trudeau does.
I've made a commitment to Justin Trudeau to be a candidate in the next election. I'm committed to running as long as he is the leader.
9 Liberal MPs have signed a letter calling for an immediate caucus meeting to talk about the by-election loss. But today, Trudeau dodged questions about if he'll do that. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Voters in the United Kingdom are going to the polls tomorrow, and all indicators are pointing to a major change in government. Briar Stewart takes a look at the last day of campaigning.
It was Lewis flat 8, undecided.
Across the UK, the final push for votes.
Okay, right.
In the town of Watford, volunteers canvass for the local Labour candidate.
Tories have not been good for the United Kingdom, and that's the essence of it.
And they say that's what they hear from the voters they managed to speak with on the doorstep.
This constituency is a real priority for the Labour Party because they believe there's enough support to win a seat here, which they haven't done since Tony Blair was Prime Minister.
Watford is a commuter town just outside of London. It's considered a bellwether riding. Voters here usually elect whichever party ends up forming the government.
Everybody I'm talking to, it seems like they want a change.
I think I would vote for the Labour Party. I think they are more geared towards looking after working class people.
Labour leader Keir Starmer is on the brink of becoming Britain's next Prime Minister.
We are fighting for every vote.
Polls point to Labour winning a significant majority. Even some Conservatives believe their scandal-plagued party will lose big, which is why in a last-ditch effort, Boris Johnson popped up on the campaign trail, throwing his support behind Rishi Sunak, the man who helped push him out of the Prime Minister's office.
You like pepperoni?
Sunak spent his final hours on the campaign trail trying to appeal to families, but his time in power is almost certainly fleeting. The big question, observers say, is what happens next.
We in this country face really serious economic problems. If Labour don't manage to do something about that, the danger is that the next election will be an even more angry election with more and more people voting against the mainstream and looking for alternatives.
Because while Labour is poised to take over the government, it will also inherit all of the country's problems too. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
WestJet passengers continue to face some travel frustrations following a weekend strike that later ended. The airline expects a handful of flights to be canceled today. The 2-day strike resulted in the grounding of more than 1,000 flights, affecting 100,000 passengers. Some were stranded outside the country. The company says it's peak travel season, so there's limited availability for rebooking on WestJet and other carriers. The airline says it will make every effort to get customers to their destination, but some say getting in touch with WestJet customer service was nearly impossible. The flight cancellations after the recent WestJet strike has many passengers wondering about their rights. More than a year ago, the federal government proposed new rules to simplify compensation regulations, but the changes have yet to take effect. Sophia Harris reports.
Retired RCMP officer Norm Massey enjoyed his trip to Vancouver, attending a youth basketball tournament he co-founded. But he didn't enjoy the trip home. His flight was delayed more than 14 hours.
So what was that like to spend 14 hours in the airport?
I'll tell you, it's not pleasant at all.
Air Canada rejected his claim for compensation. In an email to Massey, Air Canada blamed unforeseen maintenance, which was within its control but required for safety-related reasons. Under current regulations, airlines must pay compensation, up to $1,000, for delays within their control, unless they're safety-related.
Do you think that they're just using the safety clause to deny you compensation?
Absolutely. That's what I feel. And until they prove otherwise, that's the way I'll continue to feel.
Massey has company. The Canadian Transportation Agency has a backlog of more than 72,000 air passenger complaints, many over compensation for flight disruptions.
There will be no more loopholes.
More than a year ago, Ottawa proposed new rules to simplify the compensation process and close supposed loopholes, like the required for safety category.
It's a huge gray area that really only the carriers can take advantage of.
This consumer advocate believes the new rules should have arrived by now.
This is really becoming a very long delay, and it's very unfortunate for passengers.
There's a regulatory process. It takes a certain amount of time.
The CTA says it must consider all sides before changing the current regulations.
We are looking at how to factor in the airline input as well as the consumer advocacy input that we receive.
Airlines argue getting rid of the safety exception penalizes airlines for taking safety precautions that delay flights. Meanwhile, Ottawa has yet to announce an arrival date for when those new rules will land. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
Child tantrums can be hard to handle, and it's no secret a tablet or a smartphone may buy parents a few moments of peace. But new research suggests when they give kids digital devices to calm them down, it could impact how the child manages their emotions in the future. Shoshana Reid has the details.
A team of researchers from Canada and Hungary surveyed 300 Canadian families in Nova Scotia with children 2 to 5 years old. The results were published in the journal Frontiers in Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. Parents reported how often they use digital devices to calm their children or to stop a tantrum. Then investigators followed up 1 year later. They found the more often parents gave their kids screens or digital devices, the more they reported higher anger and frustration in their children. The paper adds to growing research about the impacts of screen time on young kids, from language delays to attention problems.
It again drives home the point that screens used as a calming strategy becomes a vicious cycle. In the long term, it actually creates more of a problem because then it's harder for that child to learn any new skills without the screen.
Experts say it's important for parents to teach their kids how to handle difficult situations without a screen. And not all screen time is bad, especially when the child is using the device with the parent. Things like video chats with family or virtual stories or music time can be beneficial. Or on occasion, if parents just need a breather.
You're frustrated. The day has not gone well, your child is tired and hungry, and you're just buying some time for yourself to calm down, and they're using the device. You know, this is not the worst parenting decision in the world that you've ever made.
Still, experts say parents should not over-rely on screens. The Canadian Pediatric Society says it's important for parents to set strict time limits, ensure content is age-appropriate and educational, and be sure to monitor their own screen time in front of their children. Shoshana Reid, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's main stock index rose slightly today, while U.S. markets were mixed after they closed early ahead of the July 4th holiday. Well, here's a look now at how the markets did as we head to break. What do you call it? Cracker Jack of a day? This was top notch, wasn't it?
Definitely top notch. And perfect day for getting on the water. You mentioned that earlier, and let's show you a pic from the water. We're going to zoom in south of Halifax. This is Long Cove, and have a look at this.
That's a nice vantage point, isn't it?
And I are lucky enough to be on the water in Long Cove, and perfect. Not sure if this was taken yesterday or today, but Anne, thank you so much. Beautiful pic. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. So for tomorrow, we're looking at a great day. We're talking about temperatures along the Atlantic coastline, 20 to 24 degrees. Cape Breton, a similar range. And then you can see where the orange color starts inland and towards the northern parts of the province. That is where we'll be away from those cooler coastal temperatures and getting into the 26, 27, 28 range, maybe even a little bit warmer in some backyards. And a similar story for Friday, a little bit cooler down towards the south and west where I think the clouds could be a bit more dominant, but it is going to be a lovely day for Friday as well. Increasing the humidity a little bit, but it does look like that humidity is going to kind of stay at bay until more so Saturday, and that's when we're going to really increase the clouds as well. So a couple of fine days, no question about it. There are those showers Thursday night into Friday morning. Isolated risk mainly along the Atlantic coastline in through the Friday afternoon time period. And then we're going to increase the showers for Saturday, as especially for New Brunswick. And looks like PEI will clip into those as well. A slight risk for western areas. So those isolated shower chances we'll keep an eye on for both Friday, Saturday, and then it looks like they'll be more scattered in nature on Sunday. That's, I think, going to be our muggiest day as well, and will likely remain muggy into next week as well. So enjoy the kind of the last of the dry summer heat.
Yeah, it's been lovely for sure. Okay, Ryan, thanks so much for that. Well, you now have a chance to see the British royal family's Scottish holiday home up close. Have a peek at this. For the first time in over 170 years, Balmoral Castle has opened its doors to the public. Tickets, which cost £100 or 170 Canadian dollars, were all scooped up soon after they went on sale in April.
Visitors get a guided tour of the castle, including its entrance hall, family dining room, and library. The royal retreat in the Scottish Highlands was considered late Queen Elizabeth's favorite place.
And it is a lovely looking spot, isn't it? That's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Good night.